Welcome to this session, The Power of STEM, which is part of the Empower Conference. Thank you for joining today. I'm Lisa Flanders Dick. I'm part of the faculty here at Louisiana Tech University in the College of Education and Human Sciences. I am also the director of ELRI. So this session is a introduction to STEM. It will give you some ideas of why this is not something extra in the classroom or at the school. It can be, but you can easily integrate this into most any lesson. Also, why you would consider integrating STEM and just how this could look in your classroom. Some of the things that we will be covering are what is STEM, why you should consider integrating it, and how you can integrate it. Now, the part about exploring, that's more for a hands-on training, but I will walk through some of those pieces as well. So what is STEM? Have any of you seen this video maybe online? It's a commercial.
Molly, can you please take out the trash?
Does this remind you of anyone you might know?
Class, let's turn to page 136, recessive traits.
How's the new movement sequence going?
Great. Let me show you.
Please do.
I reprogrammed the robots to do the inspection. It's running much faster now. See?
It's amazing, Molly.
Thank you.
So you probably noticed several inventions throughout, and all she was doing was basically solving a problem. And many times we are giving students the answers or maybe sets of answers to memorize. And we need to focus on really building those cognitive skills for them to be able to solve the problems and build up their ability to think in this manner. I bet that a few of you probably have some students or maybe a child or a loved one that particular commercial might remind you of. I do remember one of my sons when he was very young he constantly was liking to look to see how things were put together or how they worked, and for some reason decided that a sandwich should go into a VCR, for those of you that remember those back in the days. So let's first look at what STEM is not. I will definitely say one of the things that I have most teachers say is I have no time to integrate this into my curriculum. I have all these lessons I need to teach, and truly this is not something extra. This literally might be that you have your students creating a PowerPoint or a poster or working on something, and you just change the format of that activity. The standard alignment is still the same. It is not only for science, technology, and math classes. There's also not a cookie cutter. So your classroom might integrate STEM one way, whereas another one may do something completely different. If it was cookie cutter and we could set it up that way, we would probably be millionaires. And it's definitely not a fad that is going to go away. One thing that I have seen many times in districts is where when they roll out STEM, they actually will target the gifted population. And while this is a great population to target, you might be missing out on an amazing opportunity for all students including special education. Some of my strongest coders were actually in special education. One thing that some people outside of STEM or haven't seen STEM integrated effectively might say, oh, well, they're just, playing or, building and doing this. It's not always fun. And you do have to help your students be able to build the mindset that they understand, oh, this didn't work. I am going to need to troubleshoot it and really think about how I could modify this for it to work the next time. It is not something new, and it also does not always involve building. So now let's look at what in the world is STEM. So it's a way of teaching and learning. You could think of maybe project-based learning and cross-curricular lessons. These could be STEM. It is standards aligned. This is not just some separate activity. There is a cross-curricular focus, and there is a strong real-world career connection with true STEM integration. So you might be thinking, okay, people talk about STEM a lot. Why should I integrate STEM? Well, I am so glad that you asked. So here's one thing. It incorporates the 4 C's of the 21st century learning. So we have communication, collaboration, critical thinking. I'm going to have to move myself around again, and creativity. And this is easily integrated in those STEM activities. So why should you integrate STEM? You can Google and find the drastic increase of jobs. This data is constantly changing. It is the jobs of the future. STEM involves so many elements of those jobs. In fact, many of the jobs that you're preparing your students for don't even exist. But the skills that they develop through STEM integration will align with these jobs that are going to be available in the future. It improves conceptual thinking. I cannot express enough the changes that I had in my classroom, whether it was mathematics, whether it was computers, it depended on what course I was teaching, but them starting to learn that cognitive aspect of being able to think for themselves actually spelled over to other subject areas. And it is a huge difference that you will notice, but it takes a little bit of time. The younger ones catch on a little earlier. The older they are, the more set in the ways they are, where they're not comfortable necessarily with doing the thinking for themselves, but they love it once they do. Financial stability. You'll notice here that the jobs that are STEM related are expected to see a 12% increase, or 1 million jobs by 2022. You'll also notice it's a real high demand. These graduates earn 40% more than other graduates. There's a huge interest, and this isn't just for students, it's also for parents. They want their students to be participating in STEM. So how in the world do you integrate STEM? Now remember, it's not cookie cutter, so I'm going to just give you some examples and you can see if one of these might fit for your particular district, school, or classroom. So you might have heard already many times about project-based learning, and I'm going to move myself over again. That is one way that you could integrate STEM. There's also maker spaces, fab labs, STEM labs. These are all very similar. I'm just giving you different terms that they could be called. One example of a maker space might be that you have brought in materials either in a library or in a separate classroom, or maybe a center in your classroom. And let's just say that if you gave a test every Friday, that after they completed that test, they were in charge of their own learning. That was one of the things that I actually did in one of my classrooms. And they could use these materials. And when they used the materials, they had to be learning. That was the only rule. So I would walk around and just kind of take notes of what different students were working on and provided these materials for them to work on. It can be integrated through engineering, discovery, or design processes. I'm sure you've seen the sheets with the engineering design. It could be a standalone club, a course. It could be an entire program. And it could even be skill focused. And so we'll talk about that here in just a few moments too. So I'm just going to spotlight a couple of these. One of them I've already talked about a little bit. So a makerspace is one way that you could integrate STEM. And this could be done in a variety of ways. So you could have a school makerspace. A lot of times these will be set up in a library. If you're interested in learning more about that, this quote came from Laura Fleming. She has several books that really walk you through everything from having a vision to how you can make that provision come to fruition. So the school makerspace is one idea. Maybe at recess they have an option. Maybe your ELA classes might rotate to the library already. Another is in the classroom, which I kind of mentioned a little bit before. You could have a center that was open at certain times. You could also have a pop-up. So let's say that you didn't want to have one all the time. You might have a once a month, once a quarter pop-up makerspace that was only available for a certain amount of time. Now, one thing that you could do during a makerspace is you could help guide some of the learning that was taking place. So the example I'm going to give is if I were teaching, say, a 4th grade class and I had a center set up and I wanted to make sure to align with some of the science standards related to energy. So my center might have some task cards in it, such as create a circuit, explore objects in motion, investigate change in temperature. And you'll notice that there's little icons on each of these, and these are the tools that they would be using inside of that center. Another resource that I used, it was a tool, was ActiveInspire. So if I had a panel that this was displayed on, you basically could walk over and there were these essential questions for the center that you were working to investigate and learn more about. And each one of these colors that you see, the pink, the orange, and the purple, those are flashcards. So if the students click on them, they reveal information such as keywords, maybe some questions that will help guide that particular learning. And then there were additional resources such as these short little videos that also would help them. Now, another example that was mentioned was a skill focus. So I'm going to use coding as an example because there's all kinds of coding resources out there that you can find, and you can actually even earn money for your classroom for your students completing coding activities in Khan Academy. So one thing is school. Maybe you're going to have a focus on coding and you have like hour of code participation school-wide during Computer Science Week. So maybe you're sending home a letter to the parents. It might be in your announcements. Maybe a couple of teachers have this built in, and then you display what they have accomplished during that time. Another would be in the classroom itself. You could integrate coding with a particular activity. So one of my favorites, I actually swiped or borrowed from my friend Missy Woolley, and it is an activity that we do that integrates literacy, science, and math. So this activity starts off with a book that's called The Diary of a Wombat, and students listen to the story, and then they have to use a folder activity where they sequence the story. And after they do that, they work in a group with a poster on their table, and they use a little Bee-Bot, and they have to program that Bee-Bot to go to different pictures according to the sequence of the story. Now the cool thing is that when you are clicking on this Bee-Bot, there's little arrows. Y'all can look up, you could pause and look up what a Bee-Bot is real quick if you'd like. They are pushing on arrows, and they're actually processing how to code. So some of this doesn't look like coding. You're actually just training their brain to code. And they are using processes and functions that connect with coding. So after they have programmed their Bee-Bot to go around to the sequence of the story, they are retelling the story. My ELA teachers out there, I know you're picking up on some standards connected with this. And then after they complete that activity and they have it checked, then they move to a challenge. This is for my science teachers out there, where they are trying to solve a problem. So there's a wombat issue. You can go and read the book. It's an issue. And they are going to solve the wombat problem. And they actually go through the engineering process to design and think about how they're going to solve it. They collaborate, and then they build a replica of what will solve this problem. So that is just a brief example for a skill focus such as coding. Again, you could have a pop-up, just like the Makerspace, except for this time it would have a coding example. Now for this, I have brought just another example of a task card, but this one you're going to notice has a lot more directions to it. So this one is called Scratchy Animal Habitats, and they're using the Scratch Junior app. And if you'll notice in the background, there's not words on these little pieces, but instead they're all color-coded, and there's arrows and numbers. Now they can add words, but this one is just the level down from the regular Scratch. So if your students aren't fluent readers yet, they can still use this particular app. And you'll notice that they have to use 1 to 3 characters. They have to include a background, type words or speech bubbles. They have to include a minimum of 3 terms that are related to their habitat or animal, and they have to make their animals move. Guess what? When they make those characters move, they're using coding. So again, we're working cognitively with our students, being able to understand how all these functions are working together. I'm sure you've already noticed the critical thinking aspects that are being built throughout these different examples. Okay, now we are to the who's ready to explore. So for this part, I'm going to show you a few things, and I'd love for you just to pause the video periodically, open up a new tab, and go and check out some of these resources. So with STEM, sometimes I like to think of like a good, better, best scenario, because we can't go and grab every single thing there is that we would like to have in our classroom. But we can usually find at least a good solution for integrating, for example, STEM, and then we can work our way up. So here is a good, better, best with circuits. Y'all ready? Okay, so this is an app, and this circuit app, they actually take the little cards and they have to put them together and then use an iPad or a phone or something like that to see will it light up the light bulb. So you have to have them set up correctly for it to work. Now that just requires printing. So we're going to call that a freebie. I do think that the app used to cost a couple of dollars. Now the next one, so that would be about equal amount, is just using light bulb, potatoes, batteries, wires, that sort of thing. So just things that you find around the house that you could use. And then for a best, and it doesn't have to necessarily be Little Bits, but something like Little Bits, where it's a built activity where they can build buzzers and maybe have some things that are light up whenever you uncover a sensor, so that the light shines and then it will alert a buzzer or something like that. So there's a variety, there's a fan, there's all sorts of things. If you want to check out some of these things, stop by Ellery and we will hook you up. Okay, now let's look at another one with AR, VR. So one would be YouTube 360 videos. You could be mirroring your computer or use your panel or your board, and you can move that YouTube video all around. Another would be MergeCube. They have a paper one online. If you have not seen MergeCube, please pause. Go to Google and Google MergeCube. You can thank me later. Just imagine being able to twirl that little baby around and you're holding the solar system in your hand. It is amazing. And again, there is a paper version, so you do not have to purchase the foam version. But again, we do have some of those that you can look at. And then this one is just a regular headset, which of course this is a good, better, best. If you want a fully immersive experience, put that VR headset on and you can have them travel around the moon. You can have them walking through museums, visiting the Diary of Anne Frank. The possibilities are just endless. So those are a few examples. Now I'm going to go ahead and show two more examples here. So this is a STEM challenge. And this is just an example of something that I would give my class, give them the materials, and then they would have to complete this challenge. And I'm going to leave you with 50 note cards that you could download or edit on your own. So I hope this kind of introduced you, just kind of maybe got you interested a little bit in STEM and what you might be able to do in your district or your school or classroom. If you need any help whatsoever, we would love to help support you. We actually have one of the Louisiana STEM centers right here in the College of Education and Human Sciences. Again, ELRI is another place that you can visit. We are here to support you. I hope that you enjoy the rest of the conference, and as always, if you need anything, please reach out.